Homeland Season 5, Episode 5, Better Call Saul. The Hacktivists rise up, Quinn covers for Carrie, Dar and Allison assess the damage. Even before I'd watched it, judging by some of the posts on the Homeland blogs, I knew that it would be an interesting episode. In particular, there was the comment that said, Quinn attempting to kill himself to save Carrie is not a rational decision. It's not, and to claim like he's performing some chivalrous act is insulting. After the episode Why Is This Night Different?, I was really looking forward to this episode, even though I knew that it was probably going to be a grueling affair. I wasn't wrong. In the hacker storyline, the pouty hacktivist Newman urges people to protest over the murder of Zorzenik, and also Zorzenik's girlfriend. He's not terribly clever, as he doesn't disguise his voice, and he pretty much outs himself by showing footage of inside the brothel. I don't really have a lot to say about this particular storyline, except that Carrie really needs to have a better disguise than that awful ratty-looking wig.
Nice wig. Very retro. Looked like one of the Baader-Meinhof gang.
I still really like the character of Astrid. I think she's great with her snarky conversation with Carrie. In relation to Allison and the Russians, I have to say I'm a little bit chuffed to find out that I was right, that Allison, the CIA's Berlin station chief, is working with or for the Russian Secret Service, and that she's the person who put Carrie's name in the postbox and also worked with the Russians to plant the bomb in the plane of General Yusuf. Who knew that she was so evil? I'd guessed it, but I'm usually always wrong about such things. I'm a bit confused about one thing though. On the one hand, some people think that it's the Russian Secret Service that is after Carrie, probably because they think that she's the source of the hacked CIA documents, which may contain something that the Russians would rather not have disclosed on the internet. But during the scene where Allison is meeting with Ivan, I got the distinct sense that getting rid of Carrie was something that Allison wanted, and wasn't something that was driven by the Russians.
I got a call from Vasily on the tarmac, except it wasn't Vasily on the other end of the line.
I was afraid of that.
What do you mean you're afraid of that?
Not your problem to worry about it.
Not my problem. Somebody got a hold of Vasily's cell phone.
I have to assume it was Saul Berenson's hitman.
Exactly. And what happens when he and Saul compare notes and realize that it was me who put Carrie Matheson's name in that kill box?
A conversation like this might lead to the SVR, might even lead to me. It will never, ever lead to you, okay? As I told you, my problem.
You better be fucking right.
You better fucking relax, Allison. This was your problem. As you can see, that problem was solved.
Jesus Christ.
I guess we'll find out soon enough. I have to say that Allison has the worst taste in men ever. First, yucky Saul, and now the evil Ivan Krupin, who doesn't seem like a very nice person at all. Ivan and Allison are pretty much trying to truss Saul up like a turkey, making it look as though he was complicit with his old friend Etai in the exploding of General Yusuf. If I didn't loathe Saul so much, I'd probably be deeply frustrated that he's basically walking into their trap. But let's face it, this is Saul, and the Homeland writers love him. There's no way he's going to stay wronged. He'll be avenged big time. Finally, I get to the bit that I've really been wanting to talk about, and that's Carrie, Quinn, and Jonas. Carrie tricks or manipulates Jonas into bringing antibiotics to help Quinn, who is in a very bad way. She does this by telling Jonas that she's the one who's injured. He shows up and is understandably pissed off at being duped by her. Nonetheless, Jonas is a decent guy, and he still sticks around to help Carrie. I'm even more impressed by his compassion or sense of duty when he sticks around and looks after Quinn when Carrie heads out in search of Laura and the rest of the documents. Nonetheless, the show is far from subtle when contrasting the behaviour of Jonas and Quinn in relation to how they respond to Carrie when she needs help.
Why should I do anything for you?
There's also this moment.
Would your sister come and examine him first?
She might have asked her to, but I won't involve my family in this anymore.
Okay. I get that.
I won't be involved anymore either.
Jonas's words are in pretty sharp contrast with the exchange that Carrie has with Quinn. Because when Quinn realises that Carrie's figured out part of the puzzle, he immediately knows that she's going to try to go out and get more information. His first instinct is therefore to try to get up and protect her, even though he's septic and he has blood pouring out of him.
So there was something in the additional documents the SVR didn't want you to see?
Correct. What are you doing?
If you're going back out there again, I'm coming with you.
Hey, Quinn.
It's too dangerous.
It's not. No one's after me at the moment, thanks to you.
Then later on, when Carrie asks Quinn how he is, again, all he can think about is how she is.
Hey, you gonna be all right?
It'd be better if you'd get the hell out of Dodge.
I can't do that. Not now. We'll talk about it when I get back, okay?
Then if we still didn't get that there's a big difference between these two men, we're given a direct conversation between Jonas and Quinn.
I'm okay. You're not. You call an ambulance, you condemn her to death.
I can't just sit here and watch you die.
And fuck off somewhere else.
That's not a choice either.
If I'm found like this, in a hospital or in a morgue, Carrie will never be free.
You people are out of your fucking minds.
You'd do the same if you were me.
I would not.
For her, you would.
No, I would never put myself in that situation. What? What's so goddamn funny?
You're already in that situation.
I actually do like Jonas as a character, but he feels the same as most of the people that Carrie controls or manipulates into doing her bidding. By contrast, Quinn often does a lot of what Carrie wants, but for some reason it feels a bit different. It feels more like equal footing rather than helpless pawn, but maybe I'm looking at things through shipper glasses. Later on, when Jonas calls Carrie to tell her that Quinn is fading fast, although she's obviously very conflicted, she does tell him that he should call an ambulance.
It's not gonna work. Your friend's in really bad shape.
Tell me.
He lost a lot of blood.
Jonas, you're gonna have to call your sister.
Well, she's just gonna say he needs to go to the emergency room.
You don't know that.
Carrie, he is dying.
Okay, then. Call an ambulance. Do what you have to do.
Come, Carrie. Oh, damn it.
I have to say that the end of the episode is absolutely heartbreaking. I did not give two hoots that Saul has reunited with Carrie in the back of that cab, because their relationship holds zero interest to me. I'm more concerned about Quinn by the banks of the Spree River trying to dispose of his body in a way that will not endanger Carrie. First of all, he tries to sink his own body in the river. Then when that's thwarted, he tries to throw himself into a dumpster. Yeah, we get it, writers. Quinn thinks that he's worthless. It's very much a reference back to Season 3 and Season 4 Quinn, who was on the redemption path. As someone on Reddit pointed out about Quinn's efforts towards the end of the episode, leave no trace, consummate professional even to the end. This is why I can never see Quinn as being insensitive to Carrie. He cares so much about her well-being that he'd rather die. Not saying it's rational, though. I do think that the show is being a little unsubtle about highlighting the differences between Jonas and Quinn, and making it clear that Jonas represents the life that Carrie wants but can't have. I know that a lot of people really don't like Jonas, but I think that the actor plays him well. Some of the things the writers have him say come across as quite unsympathetic, but the actor is talented, and I find myself believing that he does care about Carrie. Jonas represents the everyman, the ordinary person who doesn't understand the crazy life that Carrie and Quinn have chosen for themselves, and why should he? He acts how you would expect a normal person thrown into Carrie's world would act. As I've pointed out in some of the comments at this blog, we get used to looking at things through Carrie and Quinn's eyes, and that really skews our perspective. Their version of what is normal is so crazy and weird for a genuinely normal person. We're used to accepting Carrie's baseline of normal and Quinn's baseline of normal, so that makes Jonas look unhelpful and supportive, maybe even unloving, when actually he's just responding to craziness in the way that a lot of normal people would respond. I do take the point, though, that he's not entirely normal, because as a lawyer working for the During Foundation, representing a hacker like Sabina, having been the lawyer that did the background check into Carrie's CIA past, he should have more of an awareness than a primary school teacher or a plumber. But I do think that people are being a little bit hard on him when they say that because he doesn't respond the same way that Quinn does to a situation, that he's therefore a bad person. Jonas has a family. He has a lot to lose. He doesn't have the full picture. Carrie's never been entirely honest with him. Carrie and Quinn are both extremely reckless people. And while I think it's selfless of Quinn to behave in the way he is, I don't find it particularly romantic, and it's also not very rational. If he was thinking things clearly and not affected by sepsis and blood loss, he would realise that if he really wanted to protect Carrie, he should stay alive and stick around. As I pointed out in one of my comments, part of me wonders whether this was his excuse for finally ending everything, but doing it for a selfless and unselfish reason that he could justify to himself. He's never seen the suicidal type. He's never seen to be the sort of person that would, choose to leave life, even though he was, in a very dark place during season 4. So I do think that a lot of this has been driven by the fact that he's badly injured and he doesn't think that there's any way out for him. The Hell Yeah Homeland blog had mentioned something like, I understand why Quinn doesn't want to go to a hospital. I understand that, really I do. Ultimately, Carrie acquiesces and tells Jonas to take him to hospital if he must. So is Quinn really the only person who sees the danger? I have to think that if Carrie truly believed that he couldn't go to a hospital, then she would not allow Jonas to take him to a hospital. So my thoughts on that are that I think the issue is that the danger is to Carrie and not to Quinn. So while Carrie can make a call to ask Jonas to take Quinn to the hospital and therefore put herself in danger, Quinn is not prepared to make that call. Therefore, he'd rather do away with himself rather than hurt Carrie. While I agree that it's a bit silly that we're supposed to believe that this is true love because he's willing to dispose of his body in the river or a dumpster and die solely for the benefit of Carrie, the shipper in me is still a little bit impressed. I loved one of the comments on Reddit that said, "He's a CIA assassin with a broken soul, a true romantic hero, heart of a poet and hands of a killer." Thing is, when I think it through rationally, I think that Astrid could totally have solved this problem. She wanted to solve the problem, so it made zero sense to me that Carrie didn't reach out to her. While I totally get that the writers probably don't want to rely too heavily on Astrid as the panacea for all of Carrie's woes in Germany, it's a pretty obvious plot hole. Astrid had shown that she was ready, willing and able to help out in this situation. It makes no sense that neither Carrie nor Quinn thought to reach out to her. As I mentioned in another post, when I saw the promo for next week's episode, Parabiosis, I started feeling very anxious. Namely, that the people who've saved Quinn are religious extremists and that they would try to brainwash him to their cause. I know that this was entirely irrational because it's not like Quinn is young and impressionable, but I couldn't help wondering where they were going with this. As you will recall, this is what the stranger at the end of Better Call Saul says to Quinn when he discovers him.
Only God is permitted to give life and to take life.
Listen. Go away.
I won't. I cannot. God has sent me to help you.
Unfucking believable.
In the promo, we hear Quinn saying something about the man giving his own blood to save Quinn's life, so I'm guessing he's going to feel a sense of gratitude. So I started worrying that this could be sort of twisted around to manipulate him into thinking or behaving a certain way. And then earlier on in the second episode, The Tradition of Hospitality, Fatima asks the teenage girl, "And who saved you from that?" referring to her attempted suicide. Ayla says, "You," and Fatima says, "No, sweetheart, not me. Allah saved you. He chose you, and when Allah chooses us for important work, we must submit. That's the way to paradise." So I couldn't help wondering if there were parallels. But fortunately, the rest of you have come to my rescue. And Claudia, also known as perennially fascinating, previously known as KC2009, has pointed out that for them to go down the brainwashing route would be far too similar to the original Brody storyline. So I am pretty comfortable now that the stranger who encounters Quinn by the river is not going to brainwash him and make him become a religious extremist. I am, however, very concerned about whether or not this means that the Quinn and the Carrie storylines are going to diverge again, and we're going to have a few episodes where they're just not in the same room anymore. Because, as you know, I think it's far more compelling viewing when they're together. Anyway, that's it for this post. Sorry it wasn't particularly illuminating, but I got kind of sidetracked answering everyone's posts on the blog. It's actually really great to see so many people commenting and talking to each other. I think one of the reasons why Tumblr doesn't work so much for me is that it's really only possible to have conversation between two people, whereas the live journal format allows sort of all the different people commenting to talk amongst themselves and to each other as well. So I think that's much more conducive to an interesting discussion. Otherwise it just becomes very one way, with people writing into me and then I reply to them. Anyway, like everybody else, I will be in suspense until the next episode comes out. Can you believe that before the season started, I was even thinking about not watching any of the episodes and waiting until the whole season was finished? I don't think I would have lasted very long.